Welcome to another episode of the Lightspeed Investing Podcast. I've got Robert Heath Sr. here, who is the founder of the Legacy Leadership Consulting Group. And from a former attorney, Marine Corps, to a dedicated alignment coach, he is here from Grand Rapids, Michigan, to tell us more about what exactly an alignment coach does and do, and what is it that makes you so different from everyone else. Robert, glad to have you here, man. How you doing?
Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be here again. Thank you. I really enjoyed our conversation before and was glad to be asked to come back.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So for the audience who may not have seen or listened to the first episode, how did you get into alignment coaching, right? From a high level overview, and what exactly is this industry about?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. A lot of what I do at the end of the day is I help people to align their identity, their purpose, and then their activities so that they can speed up the results that they get. And I do that with organizations, with individuals, with individual leaders, both from a personal coaching and a personal professional development side. And then also I work with management teams, helping them to make sure that their strategy is aligned so that things are cascading throughout the organization. To make that happen. To your question, how did I get into this? Really, leadership for me has been something that I've been studying, and human performance and maximizing human performance has been something that I've been studying and involved in for over 30 years now, from being a teacher and a basketball coach to being a lawyer and a Marine Corps officer, and everything that I've done in that career, and then moving into starting my leadership consulting practice, working with Fortune 500 companies all the way down to startups. The main thing that I would say is, what I have seen working with different organizations is that so often there's a very clear understanding, kind of an intellectual knowledge of what we want to do. But what most organizations struggle with is making sure that who they think they are and what the purpose of their organization is doesn't always line up with the activities that they do every day. So you wind up having this kind of uphill struggle. Right. And I always, link it to kind of the analogy of kind of a car that's out of alignment. Right. So when you can have the best car that you can think of. Right. Let's say you got a Bentley, you got a McLaren, you got a Mercedes. Right. Whatever your luxury car is that you like. Right.
Mine's the Rolls Royce.
There you go. So you can have a Rolls Royce, right? It's an amazing automobile. Everything in the automobile is awesome, right? And the key thing about it is, if you're driving that car and it's out of alignment, and for those of you all that may not have driven any of those, high class cars, right? It doesn't matter what car you've driven. If you've ever driven a car that's out of alignment, you know how it goes. For the first, little bit, when you're driving slower, when you're in the parking lot, or you're just driving 20, 25 miles an hour, you don't even notice that the car is out of alignment. It's not till you start going faster, till you start picking up speed, till you start being able to actually move and actually do stuff, and you want to try to open things up. You start going 35, 40 miles an hour, and you start feeling the car pulling to the side, right? Pulling to the left, pulling to the right. It's harder to steer. It's harder to stay straight on the road. And you know that something's off, but it's not so annoying yet. You just have to be a little bit more attentive. But then you start to try to get on the expressway, and you notice something is really wrong, right? You're going 55, 60, 70 miles an hour, and the car just feels like it's shaking and like it's about to explode, right? And so often what people will think is that something's wrong with the vehicle. There's, is something wrong with the engine? Is something wrong with the transmission? The major functions of the vehicle. And the reality is, no. It's just a couple of millimeters out of alignment of the tires, right? Just the tires not working the way that they're supposed to work together, so that the intention of the driver communicates to the car and the car is then able to execute it. That can make everything have to slow down, right? Because when you're driving a car that's out of alignment, you know how it is. You got to slow down so that you can just get to where you're trying to go. And you take it to get looked at with the mechanic, and then they figure out, oh, it's just out of alignment. Now, once they get that car into alignment, now you can get that maximum performance. Now, with a light touch on the steering wheel, you can keep the car going straight and not have any issues, and you can speed down the highway, right? 60, 70, 80, some of y'all lead foot people out there, 90 miles an hour going down the highway, right? At the end of the day, there's a lot of organizations that they've got the right people. They've got the right processes as far as what they're trying to deliver and what they're making. The issue that they don't have is that they don't have everything in alignment, from a strategy perspective to an identity perspective to an activity perspective. And that slows individuals down and it slows organizations down. And so what we do is we work with a lot of high performing, high achieving people. And oftentimes they think that it's something new, right? A new system, a new thing that they have to learn. And that's normally not the case. Most of the people that I work with have read the right books, have seen the right YouTube videos, have watched the right TED Talks, have been to the right conferences. They know intuitively what they should be doing. Right. What the problem is they don't know why they're not doing it. And so what we do is we help them to come and walk alongside them, look at what are the obstacles that are in their way? What are the blind spots that are keeping them from being able to see those obstacles? And then how do we overcome those? How do we get them back into alignment? And that's why you hear me talk about being the alignment architect.
The alignment architect. So if there are a lot of alignment architects out there servicing their clients and making them right again, what is it about this architect that makes you so uniquely different than everyone else?
And that's a great question. And I would say it this way. There are a lot of coaches out there serving their clients. There are a lot of strategists out there serving their clients. There are not a lot of our alignment architects that are out there. And that's one of the big things that makes it different. What I focus on more than anything for my clients is what is keeping you from being in alignment. And it's not just, again, it's not just head knowledge. It's not just intellectually. It's looking at what is the purpose of your organization? Why do you exist? Or what is your purpose as an individual? What is your God-given, ordained purpose for being here? I believe that everybody is here for a reason. Everybody has a purpose on this planet. Everybody has greatness within them. And one of the things that we help people and organizations to do is to figure out what is that driving purpose that is the reason why you're here. Second, we look at what are the aspects of your identity that are maybe out of alignment with that purpose. What are the limiting beliefs that you have? Or what are the processes or the systems that you have in place that are actually systemically keeping you from being able to be successful because of the way that you're doing things? And then lastly, we look at what are your activities? How does what you're doing every day line up with who you say you are and with what your purpose is? And if those things are not in alignment, you're going to see that you're going to have a lot of wasted energy. You're going to have a lot of roadblocks. You're going to have a much harder time being successful. What we do is we remove those obstacles. And by helping people to remove the obstacles to alignment, we make sure that they're in alignment. And now ordinary people can do extraordinary things.
I love that. I love that. And to give the audience a glimpse, we have prepared, or you have prepared rather, 3 teaching points, right? So out of the 3, which one do you want to start with first? And do you think these 3 are important in terms of priority and you must go through each in order, or are they just more so 3 things that you ought to pay attention to?
Yeah. What I've prepared for today is just kind of 3 different things that we can talk about that are kind of mindset shifts that have to happen, right? We've already kind of dug into one of them, right? Alignment is one of those things that a lot of people overlook, right? We think that if we're doing all of the things, then everything is right. And so we confuse busyness for productivity and for effectiveness, right? And so oftentimes you'll see a group that works really hard, but doesn't get a lot of stuff done. As a matter of fact, we even believe that being busy is a sign of productivity, when the reality is the better that you get at something, the human mind and the human body is designed to get better and better at things by doing them more and more with less and less energy over time, right? That's the power of habit. That's the power of systems. So the reality is if you're still working as hard 6 months later or a year later at doing something as you were when you first started, something's wrong. Right? It means that you're out of alignment. And so the first thing that we wanted to talk about is just the power of alignment. When you can get aligned all of your results with your activities, right? And your activities with your opportunities, and in your opportunities with your beliefs, what winds up happening is that you are able to see different things. You're able to take advantage of different things. And so here's the way that we kind of explain it, right? Most people start off with results. And they're wondering, where do results come from? Well, of course, our results come from our behaviors, right? What do we do that gets us our results, right? Everybody knows that part. That makes perfect sense. But then where do our behaviors come from? Where do those habits, where do those systems come from? Where do those activities come from? Those actually come from the potential behaviors that are out there for us, our possibilities, right? What we like to call our opportunities to be outstanding. Now, here's the interesting thing. For a lot of people, they have greater or lesser opportunities, even though they're in the same situations, right? You know this. You went to school with a lot of people that had the same opportunity to accomplish different things, but there were different results that happened even though everybody got into the school with the same opportunity, got into the class with the same opportunity, right? When I was in law school, I went to law school with 270 other law students who all had an opportunity to graduate cum laude, magna cum laude, summa cum laude, right? Some of us graduated with honors, some of us didn't. The opportunity was there for everybody, though. So what was the difference between those of us who graduated with honors and those of us who didn't? The biggest difference was, what were our beliefs about ourselves and our work? Because depending on what you believe about yourself, it changes dramatically the opportunities that you see as available to you. Right? So I remember when, and this was one of the things that I learned in between my first and second year of law school, I was working way harder than people that I knew weren't as smart as me and that I knew weren't working as hard as me, but had better grades than I had. And I didn't have bad grades. Right. I graduated with honors, but there were some people that I saw that had way better grades than me. And I'm like, I know they're not working as hard as I am because I'm in the library all the time. I'm not seeing them, right? Like I know that I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing, but they're getting better grades than me. And what I learned was there were certain things that they knew. There were certain ways of taking the test that they knew, and there were certain things, beliefs that they had that were different than what I had, right? I had a belief that I had to demonstrate how much I knew about everything on the test, whereas they had a belief because they knew people that had already graduated from law school, had already gotten good grades. They knew how to get good grades on the law school exams. And once I learned what they learned, guess what? It got easier for me as well. That was because of certain beliefs that I had about what a good law school exam looked like. And because I had that belief, I didn't see certain opportunities. They literally didn't exist to me because my belief said that wasn't an opportunity to do better. And so alignment is all about us making sure that we control and we are aware of what are our beliefs about our opportunities, because depending on what we believe, that will dramatically transform what opportunities appear to you, what opportunities you're able to take advantage of, and your opportunities again dictate your behaviors, which then dictate your actions and your results. And so the first big thing is, how do we align ourselves from a belief perspective with the results that we want?
Right. Well, and also, a bigger picture outside of just the results as well is the vision, right? Like, you got to know where your trajectory is going so that you can be stubborn on the vision, but you can be more flexible on the mechanics, right? On the how.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. And being flexible on the mechanics and on the how is all about having a belief system that allows you to do things. For example, you and I both love basketball, right? The average height in the NBA is 6'7", and it's been that way since, even back in the 60s and the 70s. Tall guys play basketball normally. However, if Muggsy Bogues had a belief system that said you have to be tall to be good at basketball, he would have never been in the NBA as a 5'3" player. But not only was he in the NBA, he was so good in the NBA that he is one of the 5 people that Michael Jordan picked to be in Space Jam. Right? If Spud Webb believed that you had to be tall in order to dunk a basketball, Spud Webb would have never at 5'7" won the dunk contest. Right? But he had a different set of beliefs, which then opened up a different set of opportunities for him. Now, did he still have to do the behaviors? Did he still have to work out? Did he still have to do the work? Yes, but he got different results because his belief set was different. Right? And so there's a lot of people out there that have certain beliefs, and we get our beliefs from a lot of different places. We get them from our parents, we get them from our past failures, we get them from our community, right? That you've heard it said before. You want to figure out what your net worth is going to be. Look at the 5 people that you hang around with the most, things like that. You pick up beliefs from a lot of different places. Right. But the one thing I try to help my clients to understand is, if we want different results, we have to pay attention to the beliefs that lead to those results and the people that have those results and what beliefs they have. And so that's a lot of what we work with as far as alignment is concerned, in making sure, again, that your beliefs are aligned with your results that you were looking for.
And on top of that, right, if you're able to have that bigger picture, now you can move towards a more abundance model as opposed to a burnout model of leadership, right? Which is the second point that you want to talk about today.
That's the second thing that we want to talk about, right? Like, and again, it all goes down to belief system, right? What do you see and how do you do it? Most people again, work hard, right? We're talking about high achievers now. Like, there's a whole other, set of talks and set of work that I do with people who are trying to become high achievers, people who are trying to become the go-to person. That's a different conversation. But right now I'm talking to the people that are high achievers out there, that they've already done the stuff to say, can I do whatever I put my mind to? They know that they can, right? People like yourself, right? Been to medical school, been to law school like me, or have done, heavy duty professional work in corporate America, in the world.
But they're now looking to be selfish and go after what makes them happy and fulfilling.
Exactly. And before they're trying to be selfish, because most people have a belief that they can't be selfish, what they struggle with is exactly what we're talking about. They struggle feeling like it's selfish to take care of yourself. Right? They're under this mindset that you have to give. And what I talk about and what I call that is the burnout model, right? The burnout model, I like to talk in pictures, analogies, and stories, right? So one of the things about the burnout model, I always liken it to a coffee pot, right? Now, if you ever been in an office setting, especially for the coffee drinkers in the world, like I'm a tea drinker, so I don't really deal with this, but I know I was in the Marine Corps and everybody drank coffee in the Marine Corps. And so one of the things that you do not do in a room full of coffee drinkers is you do not take the last cup of coffee and not refill the pot, right? The fastest way to get everybody mad at you and yelling and screaming and coming and getting you is to not refill the pot. Now, you think about it, and it's kind of interesting, right? That model is, right? You take the pot, you pour out, and eventually the coffee pot gets empty. Now, if you fill it back up, life is good, nobody has a problem. But when you don't fill it back up, what happens is everybody that relies on that coffee pot, AKA that leader, to get filled now has to wait for that coffee pot to move from empty to full again. And a lot of leaders, that's how we've learned to give to the world. We've learned to pour ourselves out. I go to work here. I go to this project. I go to this thing, and I pour and I pour and I pour. And I start the day at a full cup, and by the end of the day, I'm drained, and I got to go fill myself back up. And normally what happens is you get less full the next day and less full the next day, and then you need your weekend, and then you need your vacation, and then you need your sabbatical, right? Just so that you can go get refueled and refilled up. And the problem with that model is it leads to burnout. It leads to you being empty at the end of every day. And over time, that aggregate starts to teach you that the more people that you help, the more service that you do, the more burned out you're going to feel, right? The better you do in life, the more work that you do in life, you're not going to feel fulfilled. You're going to feel empty. The more success that you have in life, you're not going to feel fulfilled. You're going to feel empty, because that's what we do day in, day out. Now, here's the problem with that leadership model. Not only does it make us feel burnt out, but what it also does is it teaches everybody that we pour into that the way that you serve other people is that you pour out of yourself and into them. And so burnout becomes the model for everybody else to help that learns from us. They see us pouring into others. They see us emptying ourselves. They see us draining ourselves. They see us working ourselves and being unfulfilled. And if they want to not be selfish, if they want to help the world, guess what they do? They model the same thing, because that's the way that we do it.
So what's the answer? You have multiple coffee pots ready to go.
Yeah,
Do you own the coffee machine? That's what is the secret sauce here?
I like it. Good question. So the whole thing that you want to think about is this. What if you could flip it on its head? What if you could have an abundance model, a model where you don't have to pour out of your scarcity to somebody else's scarcity? What if you could pour from your abundance? What would that look like, right? And what I want you and I want the listeners to kind of picture is, right, if you ever been to a wedding, right, and you see the champagne glasses stacked up, right, and you see the champagne fountain, and what you'll see in a champagne fountain is that top glass, it doesn't turn over, it doesn't tip in order to pour out. That top glass, what it does is it pours into all of the other glasses below it from its abundance, from its overflow. It doesn't start pouring into other glasses until it is full. And then from its fullness, it continues to pour into other glasses and other glasses and other glasses. And it keeps itself full, AKA it is selfish first, because it knows that by taking care of itself, by being successful and fulfilled, by taking care of itself, it can take care of more people. And this isn't, this isn't new theory or anything like that. Anybody's ever flown on a plane, you've heard them say it. Please, please, please. If any event of emergency, you'll see masks fall down from the ceiling. What do they say to do? Put your mask on first.
That's right.
And then help other people, because they understand that a half oxygenated you is not helping nobody. You're just helping somebody to die just like you dying, because you're not actually helping. You're going to pass out. They're going to pass out. Now anybody that you've been able to help is lost, right? Instead, what you want to do is fill your cup and make sure that you're constantly pouring from your abundance. How do you help more people? The more that you can take in, the more that you can pour from your abundance. You never have to be empty, and you can give into others. And here's the key. It's not just about you though. So staying full is one of the keys, and recognizing that there's enough abundance for you to have what you need and for others to have what they need. But watch this. If you look at the top glass, yes, we see it pouring from its overflow and from its abundance, but look at the glasses below the top glass. How does the second row of glasses learn how to pour into the glasses below it?
Right. They pour from their overflow.
Exactly. And so now that understanding of leadership, that example of leadership cascades down. And now from you being able to pour into others from your abundance, you can change the world, because you give people a different opportunity, because they have a different belief about how to pour into people. And that belief opens up other opportunities. Those other opportunities create different behaviors. Those different behaviors create different results. And now we have abundance. And that's how the alignment now starts to accelerate results.
Yeah. And it sounds like, from what you're saying, it's a whole lot better to drink champagne in the mornings than coffee. So I think we're going to do a corporate mandate to all the corporate businesses out in America to switch their coffee pots
right?
To the
champagne problems
structure.
are a lot better than coffee problems, right?
That's right. That's right. Especially at 8 or 9 in the morning, right? And so I think that brings us to the final concept, which is work-life balance versus work-life harmony. And this is one of my favorites.
Yeah. This is the one, again, when we talk about, trying to see the world differently, because when we have different belief sets, we can see different opportunities open to us, and those different opportunities lead to different behavior paths, right? So one of the other beliefs that I work with my clients to overcome is this idea of seeking work-life balance. Right? You've heard it talked about over and over and over. Is there such thing, work-life balance? How can you have work-life balance? Some companies tout the fact that our employees have great work-life balance.
Right.
And the whole thing that you look at it,
whenever
you hear that, right?
I know.
Work-life balance, when people are trying to do it, it's a problem, because it's a myth. And the reason it's a myth is because it acts as if there's kind of that work you, and then there's that home you. I think there's this, I heard about a show that's like on Apple Network or whatever, that it's like Severance or something like that, where the people can actually separate their brains so that the stuff that they do at work, they can't remember what they do at home, and vice versa. And it's science fiction for a reason, because it does not exist in reality. There is no work you and a home you in reality, right? That's called multiple personality syndrome, right? Or schizophrenia.
And also I do think it's more applicable to people who may be W-2s and 9-to-5s who have a structured routine every day. But in the realm of entrepreneurship, of innovation, of building empires, that's where this conversation applies the most.
Yeah. And I would definitely say to you that you can act like it exists better in the W-2 world, but it is a fiction anywhere you go, because at the end of the day, you take you everywhere that you go. And you are not two different people. You are the same person who may be able to compartmentalize stuff, but it's still creating psychic pressure. It's still creating emotional pressure on you when you've got stuff going on at home, regardless of what's going on, because your home life and your work life is your life. And so instead of trying to do the teeter-totter where you're trying to make them equal in some way, and where if you give more at work, it means you have to take more away from home, and vice versa. So they're always opposed to one another, right? Instead, what we talk about is a concept of harmony, right? And if you've ever listened to music, one of the cool things about music is that music is synergistic. And when I say music is synergistic, what I mean is you may hear individual notes playing in music, But when you hear harmony, it's different. And it's not different because the individual notes change. It's different
Right.
because of how the individual notes integrate with one another and
Yeah, and it's
interact with one another.
synchronized. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And what you get, it right, there's a vibration, there's a resonance that harmonies have as different from just individual notes that are out there. And when you
Right.
listen to music and there's harmonies going on, you can feel that there's something more than just the individual parts, right? The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That's
Yes,
why
it
it's
is.
synergistic. It's not just because it sounds nice. It's because it's creating a different
Mm,
experience, because it's figuring
yeah,
out how to work in harmony together. And that's what we should be
yeah.
doing with our lives. I'm not a different person at work than I am at home, than I am in the community, than I am when I'm mentoring, than I am when I'm volunteering. I'm the same person. And so what I do and what I teach my students to do is, how do we make sure that, again, my purpose and my identity line up with my activity, so that everything is in harmony with one another. Everything is synergistically impacting one another. And so when I go to work, I'm pouring from a full cup, and my cup is still being filled when I'm coaching, when I'm teaching, when I'm training. And then because I come with a full cup, I'm even more overflowing when I get home. Then now I can talk to my family and talk to my wife and my son and my daughter, and it can pour into me rather than drain me. And then when I go to volunteer in the community, or when I work with my nonprofit, those activities also can pour into my cup. And now everything that I do is constantly making more for me, but more importantly, more for everybody else that I serve.
I love it. I love it. And for me, this concept is essentially being able to live an integrated lifestyle, right?
Bingo.
Where, like, for me, if you know my story, right, when I travel for both business, well, business first because it's the practical, but both business and basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where it's integrated. I'm not
Yeah.
there is no balance. There is never a balance if you're trying to achieve something great,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Mm-hmm.
why not integrate the way that you live your life with the thing that you enjoy the most, that you're passionate about, that gives you a sense of fulfillment, that gives you purpose. And maybe you're
Mm-hmm.
only able to do it at a certain level, not to the level that
Mm-hmm.
you want right now if you're listening.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always
Mm-hmm.
different levels anyways, right? So the goal is, though, the goal is to always be able to have the opportunity to stay in touch with your purpose, with the thing that makes
Mm-hmm.
you go, as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
having to sacrifice it and put it to the back burner, right, and wait for X, Y, and Z
Exactly.
to take place before you can actually enjoy it, right? That's the concept.
Exactly. No, you're 100% correct. And one of the things that people always underestimate is the power of compounding interest. We think that we have to be doing so much over so much time, right? But the reality is, if you're doing a little bit, but you're doing it consistently, right? See,
Yeah.
there were some studies that they did about multitasking, and this applies to this concept, because a lot of times we try to multitask with our lives without having that synergistic
Right.
integration, that harmony, that resonance, right?
Yeah.
And what they found was that the people who think that they're good at multitasking are actually less productive than they think they are, number one, because they just get clouded by the busyness. And number two, they actually get worse at focusing than the people who
Yeah.
are bad
Yeah.
at multitasking by their own self-assessment. And the reason why is because the way the brain works is this: we don't do multiple things at once. We switch channels from the things that we do. Now, some people are really good at switching channels very fast, but how fast you switch
That's
channels
right.
has
Yeah.
nothing to do with how much you get done when you're on that channel. And what the
Yeah.
science has shown us is that the more you switch channels, the longer it takes you to get ramped back up to optimal performance on a channel.
Yeah.
It takes
Yeah.
somewhere between a minute to 15 minutes for people to get back to optimal performance on that channel. So every time you're switching topics, or every time you're switching different things that you're doing, when you're not integrated, when you're not aligned, then what winds up happening is that it slows you down in your ability to produce. However, when you can be aligned, when everything you're doing, like you said, when you travel and you're traveling for work, but you're also traveling for basketball, that trip is a trip that the entirety of the trip is moving your life in the direction that it's supposed to be moving your life in. It's not
That's
as
right.
if you have to take this business trip and then try to switch and think about this over here. When you're on the business trip is funding and allowing for you to do what you're going to do in the afternoon, which is going to give you the energy and make you feel amazing about what you're going to do in the morning when you go back on business. And then when you fly back, that entire trip was energizing and was invigorating for you. So now when you get back, you're not drained. You're not having to take a vacation from the vacation. You're actually able to hit the ground running.
Well, and then that's the thing, right? Like if you are able to, and you're committed and you're determined enough, right, to find the thing that makes you go. And I say this all the time as an executive. I tell my team that I work part-time, full-time, and overtime, right? But at the same time,
Exactly.
I do not work at all. And I'm on vacation every day because I love what we do. And more importantly, I love who I get to do it with. And that's also really important, right? Your environment,
Exactly.
because the people that you share, working hours with, you arguably share it more than your spouse and your family. You see them
more than
every
anything
single
else you
day.
do.
And that's why it's so important to get this down, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that
that's
I
a
always,
great point.
yeah, one of the things that I always love talking about, right, when we were talking about this side of the conversation is to just make sure, if you're paying attention, if you're only getting excited for the weekends, for the vacation, you're subconsciously getting excited because of the escape from the routine. And so the idea is, if you can just love your daily life, you love your routine, you wouldn't need to escape, right? And I think that's the crux of work-life balance versus work-life harmony.
You're 100% correct. And the whole idea is, if I have 7 days working at 100% compared to your 1 to 2 days a week working at 100%, over the course of just 1 year, the person who is working right at that peak, Monday, Tuesday is like their main days of productivity. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is just waiting for the weekend. And then they're switching to something else, right? That's 100 days, 110 days of productivity. Whereas if I can every day, 7 days a week, be uber productive, just in 1 year, I've accomplished 3 times as much. But when you start compounding, right? Einstein said compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. When you start compounding 300 days to 100 days, just over a 5-year period, that's 1,500 days to 500 days. Now I have done 5 times as much. I'm sorry, 3 times as much over that period of time. But that 1,500 days is the equivalent of 3 years. I'm sorry, of 5 years to 1 year, even though I've only done 3 times as much. That's the craziness of the compounding of the interest.
But you're able to accomplish more because you can stomach it more, and you can stomach. I shouldn't even say you stomach it more. It's you just enjoy it. Like when you do it with enjoyment and passion, like when a car depreciates, it's like your depreciation level is very minimum.
Exactly.
And that's
as a matter of fact, you actually appreciate over time. That's the beauty of it, right? Because again, balance keeps you fighting an internal struggle where when I do more of this, I feel bad, so I have to switch directions and do more of this to make me feel in balance. So I'm never able to do as much of this as I need to do, nor am I able to do more of this and increase this. But the key thing, the synergisticity, right? When you look at harmony, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 + 1 can equal 5. 1 + 1 can equal 1,000. 1 + 1 can equal 1,000,000. Because I'm constantly improving. I remember I was reading this book and it said the difference between millionaires and the middle class is this, right? One of the key differences is that millionaires think on a longer time horizon than people who are poor in the middle class. And so millionaires will be thinking year to year returns, whereas people who are poor or middle class are thinking day to day, week to week, paycheck to paycheck, or month to month, at most quarter to quarter returns, right?
That's right.
And when you look at what's possible, if over a year I'm able to increase my capacity just by 50%, if I'm able to do that in year 1 and then able to duplicate that in year 2, I have just by the end of year 2 increased my capacity over 100% from where I started in year 1. That's the key thing that people have to pay attention to. I got to make sure I did the math right. Let's see. If I increase it 50%, yeah, I'm doing 150% of last year. Now if I do it another 50%, so 125%. There we go. So I'm 125% up from where I was in year one, right? And the key thing that people don't understand is it compounds. So now I'm getting twice as much done in a year as I was getting done before. Whereas incremental change, there's a book that you see over my shoulder right there, right? 10x is easier than 2x. And Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy talk about this a lot. They talk about the fact that oftentimes we think in terms of linear growth because that's easy for us to comprehend. It's easy for us to understand. It's the way that our pay raises go, right? Most people, when they're working a 9 to 5, when they're working a corporate job, you get cost of living increases. You get raises 3 to 5% a year, right? You know what your pay is going to be, and you know it's going to be incremental. You can track how much you're going to get paid over the next 10 years if you stay in a position, right? And so most of us have been conditioned to think that that's the way that improvements are made, is incremental growth, incremental improvement, instead of looking at the compounding effect of that improvement. And you work with a lot of entrepreneurs and you work in the investment field, right? The whole goal is exponential growth.
Yeah, because what happens is when you reach that inflection point, even though it may look like a dip compared to the linear growth, you're going to overtake it and shoot off.
Exactly.
And that's one of the key differences. But I think also it's about how people perceive it, your mindset. That all has to be right as well. Because what you're now getting into is like your ability to be patient, and it's the same concept as instant gratification, right? The people that just look forward their 2-week paycheck, versus you talked about the longer term horizon. Because if you're building an empire, you have to understand that Rome can never be built in one day, right? That's why your typical quote unquote overnight successes takes 10 years. It's 10 dark years.
Exactly. And the key thing, like you said, right, there are different activities, but they start with beliefs. What are your beliefs about success? Are your beliefs overnight success? Are your beliefs 10 years of consistent effort, delayed gratification? What is the mindset that you're bringing to this puzzle?
Your beliefs, your vision, the trajectory that you have determined that you're going, and how it all coalesce and integrated into your life, right? If it's not, then you're going to clearly have a harder time. So, Robert, awesome discussion today.
Yeah. So I wanted to leave everybody with one thing, because I know we talked about a lot of heady stuff, and I wanted everybody to understand this. I know it sounds good, right? Intellectually, it makes sense. It's logical. The key thing that we do is we figure out what's keeping you from doing it. Because I know those of you all who are out there listening, and Philip, we've talked about this off air before, right? There's a lot of people who understand what they should be doing. Again, you asked me a question earlier. What's the thing that distinguishes us and what we do at the Legacy Builders Academy and what we do at the Legacy Leadership Consulting Group? The biggest difference between us is we walk with you to help you understand why you're not doing what you already know you should be doing. Because there's a lot of limiting beliefs. There's a lot of experiences. There's a lot of negative emotions. There's a lot of things that are necessary to be cleared out, both organizationally as well as individually. And that's the thing that makes us stand apart. That's the thing that makes us stand out, is that we walk that journey with you to help you to remove the obstacles that are in your way.
Love it, man. And what I was to say, it's been a great discussion today. If the audience listening in want to get in touch with you, they want to learn more, they want to have these great discussions with you one-on-one as well, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you, and how can they reach
Great question. So as you heard, as we were talking about, I do a lot of different things. So what we put together is we have a website that's just, for me, so that you can connect with me if it's on the nonprofit side, if it's on the help, right, from coaching and consulting or anything else. If you just go to my website, Robert Heath Sr., that's robertheathsr.com. You can get connected with me. You can get on my calendar. I open up a couple of slots, especially when I'm talking with amazing people like Philip, who have phenomenal communities. We open up a couple of slots on my calendar for you to get a one-on-one slot with me, just to kind of talk through, and what we call them our clarity calls. How do you get clear on where you are out of alignment, where that friction is coming from? And so if you want to get on one of those, you can go ahead and go on my website and click the book a call link. Similarly, we've got a couple of really cool kind of giveaways that you'll see in the show notes. One of those things is a defining success self-reflection tool. One of the key things that we teach from the organizational level all the way down to any of the individual coaching we do, you have to know where you're going before you can figure out how to get there. And ultimately, defining success is a powerful thing. That's a tool that we give away for free. It's an opportunity for you to do that. And then we have and you can get some information about a course that we have that's available with that as well. So I want to offer that as a kind of gift to your listeners. Hopefully we can be helpful to them and give them some help overcoming a lot of the limiting beliefs that keep them out of alignment, because the key thing is that you're not broken. You're just out of alignment a little bit. And once you're in alignment, the cool thing, when you're walking in alignment with your purpose, when you're walking in alignment and making sure that your life is moving every day from an abundance perspective, it doesn't just help you, it helps the rest of us. As you shine your light, you make the world better for everybody else.
That's right. You can overflow so that everyone can pour from their overflow as well.
Yes, sir.
And with that, Robert, thank you so much. Thank you for being on. Visit robertheathsr.com, and I wish you a very blessed day. Talk more next time.
I appreciate you.